I'm Vito LaBella, candidate for Senate in the 26th District. And I want to discuss an issue with you that you're going to hear a lot about over the next 10 weeks and which, paradoxically, has zero relevance for any New York State election. Abortion. I know that it's a contentious issue. And I also know that if there is a Republican or conservative candidate for the New York State Senate or Assembly in your district, you'll probably receive marketing material telling you that a woman's right to choose is somehow in jeopardy. Well, there's no nice way to say it. That's a lie. It's fear-mongering, plain and simple. Abortion in New York State was legalized 3 years before the Roe v. Wade decision. Republicans could run the table, and that wouldn't change. So if you do get that robocall or text message or email telling you otherwise, call up the candidate and ask them to explain how. And then ask yourself, if they're lying to me about this, what else are they lying to me about? Some people have mentioned Project 2025 or what's going on down in Alabama. Well, none of that has any relevance about what's going on in New York State today. First and foremost, I have always supported Roe v. Wade. I believe a woman's right to choose up until 24 weeks is sacrosanct. However, there are some important, significant differences between my opponent's position on this issue and mine, especially when it comes to the later stages of pregnancy. In 2019, my opponent co-sponsored the Reproductive Health Act, which made New York one of only 7 states that effectively allows abortion on demand until birth. This law also removed any criminal or civil penalties for injuring or killing a baby in the womb, meaning that if a domestic partner assaults a pregnant woman and harms or kills her unborn child, well, that perpetrator can only be charged with the assault against the mother. Likewise, if a pregnant woman on her way to the hospital to give birth is struck by a drunk driver and that baby is injured or killed, the driver would not be subject to any criminal or civil penalties for harming or killing that baby. His law also changed the criteria for late-term abortions after 24 weeks. It shifted the focus from protecting the life of the mother to protecting the health of the mother, and that includes mental health. And this determination is left entirely up to the provider without clear definitions of what health really means. See, that's where my opponent and I differ. I think protecting a mother's health is crucial, but we need clearer guidelines and more accountability, especially when we're talking about healthy, viable pregnancies. And since this law went into effect, abortions in New York State have increased by 18%, from around 110,000 in 2020 to 130,000 in 2023. Now, while I still support Roe v. Wade, I think we need to ask ourselves how many of these late-term abortions were not medically necessary. In the last presidential debate, Vice President Harris claimed that women aren't carrying pregnancies late in their terms just to ask for an abortion. But when you try to find data to back that up, it's difficult. And that's intentional. According to national data from the CDC and the Guttmacher Institute, nationally, about 1% of abortions happen after 21 weeks. But in New York State, it's closer to 2%. And the problem is, we don't have reporting requirements, so there's a big gap in transparency. We just don't know how many of the 2,600 abortions performed every year in New York after 24 weeks involve healthy, viable babies. William Robert Johnston's research, based on the Guttmacher data, suggests that there may be more late-term abortions that aren't medically necessary than some are willing to admit. And those same people who are claiming that it doesn't happen oppose the collection of data that could prove or disprove these claims. Why? I mean, shouldn't we have this information? As your Republican conservative candidate for the 26th district, I'm not advocating for sweeping changes to reproductive rights. What I am calling for is simple. Let's start by collecting comprehensive, anonymized data on abortions performed after 24 weeks. This would allow lawmakers, healthcare providers, and the public to have informed discussions on policies that balance protecting the health of the mother and the rights of viable unborn children. And I'm not here to criminalize or even criticize women or doctors. I'm here to suggest policies that support mothers who may want to keep their child or place their baby up for adoption. We can partner with community organizations to provide more resources for pregnant women, and we can explore ways to make adoption a more viable option by perhaps increasing the types of expenses adoptive parents can cover for birth mothers. Even if the data shows that only 1% of post-24-week abortions involve healthy, viable babies, that's still 26 babies a year, right here in New York. Some might ask, why make a fuss over 26 babies out of 130,000 abortions? Well, to me, every one of those babies' lives have value. As an adoptive family, I know there are thousands of couples, infertile couples, same-sex couples, who would provide a loving, stable home for these children. Remember Hurricane Sandy? Over at NYU, the power went out, the place flooded, and the staff at NYU risked their lives to remove 21 premature babies from the NICU to another facility. Most of us would risk our lives to save a newborn baby in danger. Well, these babies are no different developmentally from the healthy, viable babies we're talking about here. This is more than just a medical decision. It's a moral and ethical question that, irrespective of religion, speaks to our values as a society. A recent survey found that 66% of young adults aged 18 to 26 want some protection for unborn babies, and that percentage goes up as the survey participants' age goes up. Look, I understand that this is a deeply personal and complex issue. Many women facing this issue might wrestle with doubt or conflict. But just because something is legal doesn't automatically make it right. Whether a human being lives or dies shouldn't be predicated solely on whether or not it's wanted. Let me reiterate, I'm not talking about taking away anyone's rights. I'm offering a balanced, comprehensive approach that protects both women and viable babies. By collecting data, by increasing support for mothers, and fostering real discussions, we can ensure that late-term abortions are reserved for cases when they are absolutely necessary. I'm Vito LaBella, and I'm running for Senate in the 26th District. Thank you for listening.